Hey, Kirk, I was curious about something.
Okay.
This is Kirk Waylo 60. I'm in Canada, Vancouver Island right now. I was thinking, with this whole thing in Ukraine, right?
Yeah.
We're starting to send big amounts of money in military support and things, at least America is, USA. I was starting to think about where my money goes. You know, as an American, paying your taxes, where does the money go? You
Military. Military, doesn't matter if it's a military, the American military, or another military around the world. That's what basically runs the United States, and this is my opinion.
Yeah.
You know, the military-industrial complex has gotten out of control in the United States.
Yeah.
Canada, not so much. You know,
Yeah.
we take that money and we put it into universal health care.
Yeah.
You know, we could put more into health care, housing of homeless people. We could put it into education, so people have jobs that pay good enough for them to have hope for the future. But in the United States, your infrastructure sucks. I've been down to the States. I spent a lot of time. I used to live in Arizona.
It needs help. Yeah.
And nothing's changed since the 70s.
I mean, do you think that we would be involved in as many conflicts as, or when I say we, I'm talking about America. Would we be involved in as many conflicts if we never had the military to begin with? If we had like just a standard, you know, country's defensive posturing kind of thing, would we? I think we've buried ourselves so deeply into the idea. Like we were talking today about the people's jobs that are tied to the military-industrial complex.
Yeah.
I mean, there are people that their family's future depend on us dropping bombs on
Basically,
other
yeah.
countries. You know, like a lot of that does. And then I look at China, and China has a tax system just, you know, similar to any other country. People pay into it, and the money goes. And what does it do? For the most part, it's building huge infrastructure projects. High-speed rail
to bridges,
building buildings and funding
airports and
projects.
highways,
you know, huge sorts of projects.
Exactly.
You know,
that's why 800 million people got pulled out of poverty in the last 20 years, because that's their mandate. The mandate of the Americans is to police the world. But you've got to go back further, because as an American, you'll understand this. You have to blame somebody. So if it wasn't for the Japanese at Pearl Harbor, America wouldn't have even been in the Second World War, and they would have been passive, just like Canadians. So it's the Japanese's fault.
Yeah, I mean,
No?
Yeah. I think America was sort of ready to involve itself in, it wouldn't have sat on the sidelines forever. Well, it was the alienation of the ability for all of these other countries to make stuff. Everybody was involved in the war physically,
Yeah.
except for America. And so they were like, okay, well, we're open for business. You know what I mean?
Well, we can build it.
Yeah, and even though Japan attacked Pearl Harbor, nobody ever attacked our mainland. You know what I mean? So,
No.
So we stayed relatively unscathed. Well, I was sort of trying to draw a similarity to the confidence that people have in their governments. You know, the confidence that people have, and the patriotism. Like, you see a lot of like anger in America. You know, there's a lot of everybody's talking about how one side's a piece of shit, the other side's a piece of shit. One guy's horrible, another guy's horrible, but the proof is sort of in the pudding, right? Because we're funding all of these crazy projects. We go around, we see tent cities, whereas in China they're going around, they're seeing a new high-rise or a new city sprouting up.
A high-speed train going by at 300 miles an hour.
They're taking their kids to a school that's like 10 times better than the one they went to.
Well, that's just it. And more disposable income. People are driving cars rather than pedaling bikes.
Yeah.
You know, kids are going to university. Farm kids, they're not staying on the farm anymore.
Yeah.
They're going to university. Like Dr. Robert. Hi, Robert. He grew up in a really poor community. He said the only saving grace, the only hope he had as a child was a school. So they take their education very seriously, and now he's one of the top oncologists in Chongqing. So you know the idea that they fight from this to this, but the whole country does the same thing.
Yeah.
It's not just the people; it's the government. It's everybody in the country is moving in that positive direction together.
Yeah.
It's not one side against another. It's not whites against blacks. It's not Republicans against Democrats. It's
left
not
against right,
it's
or
not,
whatever.
Fossil fuel against green. It's not. There's
they're
all
sort
of
of
this.
united. Yeah.
Well, that's just it. They're moving in one direction, and I attribute that to the one government policy in China, because
it does take away the need for competition in that regard.
Well,
So
and
you don't have, you know, and
there's not enough dialogue, people say.
you know, a lot of people say that like that's such a big difference between China and America, but I see in America the left and the right are very similar with regards to who pays their salaries. You know, like the people that lobby on behalf of the corporations lobby to the right and the left.
Well, you don't think,
and they want similar results from both sides.
Well, that's just it. Like these big corporations, they're doing the same thing to the Republicans as the Democrats, because they don't know who's going to win, and they want to cover their ass any which way it goes.
Like we were talking, like lobbyists would never allow the high-speed rail system in China to exist here because there's no profitability in it. You know, there's no profitability in the running of a rail of that size.
Not of that stature. But in China, you got 1.4 million people, or billion people. So you've got a lot of people. I've been on these trains, and a lot of them are you've got to wait for the next one because they're full.
Yeah.
But the Chinese government doesn't worry about if they're going to get their money back. It worries about how it's going to
impact society
and promote the economy of the country in the future.
Yeah.
So they're putting money into infrastructure now to make a better tomorrow for the people and the economy of the country, because they know that country is going to grow and grow and grow, because it's still a developing country.
Yeah.
So 10 years from now, if we don't go back to China for 10 years, we go back there, we will not recognize it. You know, it's one of those
and
things.
most likely in a positive way.
From 18 years ago, or 19, just about 19 years since I started going to China till now, Nanning is unrecognizable. You know, there was no high rises.
We have seen it. I mean, like, we have seen it like viscerally. You know what I mean? There's no question.
Well, I remember having to take buses to Guangzhou or fly to Guangzhou. It was 14 hours to take a bus to Guangzhou from Nanning. Now it's 3 hours on a high-speed train.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it costs you like $60.
Yeah.
It makes life so much easier for everybody.
But I mean, like, if you look at the appreciation that the typical Chinese has for the society that has been growing there in the last couple of decades, don't be confused about it. All you got to do is look at, you know, it would be the same in the United States. If we were seeing positive direction, positive results, we would be more happy with the powers that are controlling those results and the governments in charge.
Well, exactly.
You know, but instead we're funding wars and we're descending into poverty in a lot of areas,
and the politicians,
income
and the politicians and the mainstream media are telling you in the West that your life is so much better than their life over there.
Because they don't want. Think about that.
They leave you behind, like technologically wise, infrastructure wise, education wise. You know, I was reading an article the other day that, you know, the scientists and creation of new drugs and stuff like that overtook the United States now. They're more into research and development in the Eastern world than they are in the Western world.
Yeah.
So they're taking over everything, and it's because they're all moving in a positive direction.
But not to the scale of America.
No, and in a defensive way.
Yeah.
You know, they're trying to defend themselves against who?
Us.
But you know, if the governments were all like China, there would be no wars, because China doesn't create wars.
But there's, you know, also China is about to take the #1 slot, and with that #1 slot, there might be some changes in China. You know, who knows? You know, right? You can't predict that. Maybe China's going to get a little too big-headed.
Maybe
and, they'll start pushing people around.
Maybe they'll get arrogant.
But that's what if. I mean, that's a what if scenario. You know, but I don't put that out of potential.
Well,
you know.
No, I think with power, there comes that arrogance, and you're going to see
desire to control.
You're going to see it in any country, but you know, they make partners around the world. You know, economic partners around the world. Instead of going in there and trying to change the government, they buy the government. I mean, you know, the guys who got the money can do that, right?
Well, I mean, the purpose of this video was to kind of broaden on a thought that the appreciation that people have for their country is based on what the country is doing. It's not, you know, like you can look at the positive changes in China and you can understand that Chinese people are pretty happy with the country.
Yeah.
And you can look at the changes in America and understand
Why people are
why
pissed.
people are pissed.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's a pretty, like, especially when you have a system where people are paying into the tax program and that tax program is producing results that people on the ground living daily lives want or don't want.
Well, that's just it. Like in Nanning, I can go to the end of my block for 40 cents. I can take a brand new subway downtown in a city of 8 million people. Here, 40 cents. You got to have a car. If you don't have a car, you're not going anywhere very quickly because the bus comes around once an hour. If you do have a car and you can't afford $2 a liter for gas, you're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
You have the right of mobility in Canada, but can you afford that mobility?
Yeah.
In China, they don't say you have the right of mobility, but they're more mobile than us because the government has made it that way.
Yeah, yeah.
So you don't have to have that written in stone that you have the right of mobility if you already have the right of mobility.
Right,
You know
right.
what I mean? So the Chinese get around way more than we do at way less of a cost.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think that's a form of freedom that
we don't have.
We're
Yeah,
losing. We
yeah.
used to have, but we're losing here now.
All right, guys. That's Guelo60. Go to his channel. We're going to move on to a couple of different places here on the Vancouver Island.
Yeah, let's go see some boats.
Eh?
We could have
Let's go
went
look
to
at some
goats on
boats.
a
eh?
roof, you know.
Goats on a roof?
Yeah.
Goats? Or goats or goats?
Do you
Goats?
eat
Goats?
goat meat?
Take it easy,
I'm in
guys.
Xinjiang. I eat goat meat.
Like, subscribe, share, and we'll talk to you later.